Quiet on set, you damn kids! Who wants to make a short? We'll pay you in IMDb credits and experience. Lights, camera, action, it's I Don't Give a Flick, your favorite film podcast. Oh yeah, Tarantino, Mero, and Spielberg, here's looking at you, kid.
We talk movies and TV shows and sometimes other things we like.
And no one's coming right at your fucking face. Every minute of every day will never stop.
We'll talk lenses, music, and Foley. We'll understand the depth of field.
We've got theories so out of this world and epic it'll blow off your fucking tits.
Oh yeah, that was bullshit.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Don't Give a Flick. We are on episode 5 of our marathon podcast day here on the 23rd of May, and we are very, very excited to have with us a bevy of guests that are ready to jump in and talk about the greatest gangster films of all time. I'm joined this week by my co-host who just won't leave me the hell alone,
Gary Elmore.
Gary Elmore.
That's me this time.
Gary is actually, for those of you that listen to our "There's No Crying in Podcasting" season 1, you would know on our last episode that Gary called himself a host of that show when he's just a producer, and it offended my other co-host Nick Alessandro so much that they are not talking anymore
ever again.
Yeah, that's a lie. They were fine. But Neil Riley is traveling this week and will not be joining us, unfortunately, but he is here in spirit. So joining us this week, we are very happy to have back again, returning by popular demand, a fan favorite, New York-based producer and director Greg Parker. Greg, welcome back to the show. So happy to have you.
Hey, thanks, man. Yeah, great to be here.
Absolutely. And we are joined once again for the umpteenth time by Tweedledee and Tweedledum. No, I'm kidding. By film enthusiast and our friend Lucas Herr. Luke, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be here.
And the host of the very popular podcast and Facebook group of the same name, Midnight Cult Classics, Movie So Bad They're Good, Midnight Cult Classics and Camp, Ian Webb. Ian, welcome back for the 20,000th time.
Hey, that's me.
Yeah, that is you. I'm a little disappointed you didn't do your
that was the weakest.
That was the weakest intro you've ever had, man.
My bad. Hold on. Hey, what's up? That's me.
Oh wow, that was okay.
Yeah,
it was uninspired. I feel like you could have done better.
3/4 hearted, really.
All right.
That's okay. We'll edit in one of your older intros into this episode, and I'll let Gary take care of it in post. We'll fix it in post, Gary. It's fine. Don't say that. Never say that.
I also don't forget having a beer with Ian podcast too.
Ian, you have so many damn podcasts and Facebook groups that if I named all of them, we would be here for 17 hours. That's how long it would take. I feel like there's more than 2 podcasts. There's like 2,000 podcasts.
That's a lot of podcasts.
That's a lot of podcasts.
That's a ton of podcasts. Hopefully you're not doing all of them by yourself. Anyways, as I mentioned, today we're going to be jumping straight in. Since you've already met everybody before, we had Greg on our Hollywood in COVID episode, and we've had Luke and Ian both on numerous times. So as you guys are all familiar with them, we will just jump in directly to our topic today, the best gangster films of all time. And so I want to open this up to the panel. We talk about, there's just such a cult following behind Mafia movies and gang-related films, hood-related films, whatever you want to categorize it. And I want to know why we love them. Why we love them is because they're real-life average Joes who we wish we could be. Are they the last existence of modern-day cowboys or warlords? Anything like that? Luke, this was actually your suggestion for the week to do this topic, so I'm going to start with you. Why do we love gangster films so much?
Well, it's funny that you picked up on modern, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Is I think it is essentially this generation's version of the Western, because these guys really are just kind of cowboys who go out and they make their own rules. And I think I'm going to go even further, and I'm going to say something controversial. I think that they are mostly men's movies. Most of the women I know in my life, although they can respect The Godfather, they don't watch it the way that me and my friends and my uncles do. And I know a lot of girls and women who, when you talk to them about Goodfellas and Scarface, they'll say something to the effect of, these are just asshole people and I can't relate to any of them and I hope they all get arrested. And you know what I mean? And I think there's something about that appeals to guys particularly. And I think, again, it has something to do with that sort of the cowboy kind of going out on your own way and doing your own thing and being a bit of a, in the way that they're portrayed in Hollywood, you know, maybe a bit of a badass or whatever it is. But I certainly think there's something to that. And I do think that there is a demographic divide in the audience there is a demographic and it's men. And I think a lot of it is men who really like these movies.
Yeah, I would certainly agree to the point that, stereotypically, I would say that, males for the most part are the general, majority of the audience. I've actually met, surprisingly, and I was actually just having lunch with two old high school friends of mine, and both female, and their favorite movie, both of them, is Goodfellas. And it shocked me. It shocked me. I know. It shocked me when they said that. Yeah, Charleston and Maddie both had said that. I'm serious. We were talking about favorite movies, and I was like, for me, it's Shawshank Redemption and Braveheart is up there, but Goodfellas is my number one. And they're like, holy shit,
Maddie, if you're listening to this, I don't believe that.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
well, could be.
We'll see.
We'll see. Of course, there's obviously, that's not to say women don't like those movies, but everyone I know who really is into them, they're all guys. They're all, dudes.
Mm-hmm. Sure. That goes with we talked briefly about that with even with Jess on our action films episode the other week. Greg, what about you? Why do you love gangster films so much? Why do you think there's such a cult following behind this genre?
Yeah, I like the idea that you guys put there with the average Joe's the Western thing. I mean, the films they bring conflict right to the surface. They're basically the exact opposite of boring. There's drama, twists and turns, main characters getting whacked out of nowhere. Like it's that's the best way the exact opposite of boring.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It certainly provides a sense of enjoyment that you don't receive from, outside of action films, from the other genres. There's just something about seeing one guy like walk into a room and just blowing 8 other people away out of nowhere, or it's always entertaining. It's always, I don't know the best way to describe it even. It's always good fun. Ian, how about you? Why do we love, or why do you love gangster films so much?
It's the same thing. Yeah. What everybody else said. I got not much to add to that, but it's the the danger, the stuff that we don't deal with on a regular basis, but we wish we did. Is watching guys similar to us getting away with all this cool stuff that we can't.
If they can do it, why can't we? It's kind of that same thing. Obviously, it's illegal and there's a lot of ramifications to it. But at the same time, you're like, okay, if it's you see films about, I don't know, a royalty or aristocrats or something. I'm like, I didn't grow up rich like that. I can appreciate films and series like that. But at the same time, like they didn't, in the most part, they didn't come from humble beginnings. They didn't come from, if you want to call it the streets or like a moderate living, at all. So I can't really connect with them. There's not much of a chance for you to be able to humanize the character and be able to form that connection with me personally. Gary, what about you? Why do you think we love them so much?
I think we like them because they are sort of that outsider, like, they do a lot of the things that we want to do, but we're usually, hopefully most of us are too self-controlled to do them. Like if somebody like gives you some sort of slight at the restaurant, you grab their head and you smash it into like a vase or something.
Right.
Or, if like you're driving and somebody like rear ends you, you get out and you're like, don't worry about it. Here's $500. I'm sorry I hit you because you got a body in the car, I think a lot of it has to do with there is
Analyze
in
this.
most. Yeah. Thank you. Good. Yeah. But there's usually a code of conduct or a code of ethics that gangsters follow, especially if it's like the Italian mafia. It's like, it's us against them, you got to be part of the family, it's omerta. Don't talk about it, and, you, to your dying breath, you defend the family. And I think people like that kind of concept. It's because it's almost like a samurai warrior in a way that it's outside of the law, but it's bound very strictly by routines and things that you do, difference that you pay to like the Don or whoever's running the gang. And I think people really like that sense of unity, especially guys. That's why, as kids, we build a clubhouse and we're like, no girls allowed. And then we bring our friends over, and watch movies or whatever. But I think it's that sort of belonging that calls to people a lot, why they like to see them. Also, they're usually filled with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So it's always a fun trip. And, as was said, it's the opposite of boring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So do we feel that's why there is, because I don't even know if, I was reading an article the other day where it was saying, mobster and gang related films, they have such a cult following because you see a lot of people, talking like those guys. Like how often, if you watch Boys in the Hood or something like that, how often do you want to light up a J and you want to just kind of roll around listening to, fucking Biggie
Boys
or Cube or Boys to Men.
Yeah.
Maybe. But and you just kind of, you go around, feel like you're looking for trouble, or like you bump into somebody and you're like, hey, I'm walking here. And you do the accent that they typically have, like that Brooklyn or Bronx accent, whatever. So I don't even know if I would consider it a cult following. I feel like it's a mainstream following at that point, like that would, and Ian, you can attest to this. A cult following is typically a film that does poorly at the box office and then receives more attention once it's gotten out on like DVD or streaming, right? Right.
Yeah. But there are definitely a lot of these movies that are still in the cult category, like have not reached mainstream success. It kind of depends on circumstances. Like if it's a Scorsese film, of course it's going to be like, hailed as one of the best by everybody because he is the best. He is the best.
If you go back and listen to our Best Directors podcast, you would know that. That are
there's
listening.
some disagreement on that, but yeah.
Tarantino is unanimously Tarantino. We all came up as number 2, so that's fine.
It depends on the circumstances.
Sure. So moving on from that, Greg, we'll start with you. How do you feel after watching a gangster film? Typically, we talk about, you watch action films and you feel like you walk out of the theater after like watching 300 and you just want to like get in a fight with somebody. You're like, I don't even care what it's for. I'm going to defend my honor or somebody's honor. Let's do it. How do you feel after watching a film like that, a gangster film?
Yeah, some of the ones that I'm, thinking about, I guess I don't want to, name drop them yet, just in case, they're might be on lists here, but a lot of the ones that I end up liking are the ones that do have, a pretty deep third act downfall with some of the characters.
Yeah, exactly.
So I end up kind of coming out, when you're watching the ride up, you're like, oh, that looks like great fun, and then you see the downfall, and you're like, you come out of the theater going, oh shit, I'm glad I really didn't
necessary.
go that way. Yeah, it is.
Like it almost doesn't sit right if you don't, because like that's real life. Like most of those guys end up dead or in jail. Like you don't make it through. That was like the whole point of Goodfellas, was like it doesn't work, and like whenever they do make it through in the end, it's almost like glorifying it. But yeah, and it's so much better like to have the Scarface like quick rise, faster fall. Like I feel like you do need that kind of third act turnaround, otherwise it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it won't feel real.
That's very interesting because Johnny and I went to go see a movie last night.
Wrath of Man, the new Guy Ritchie film.
And so we were arguing or discussing at the end of it if Statham's character should have died or should have lived.
Right.
Because, sort of the third act fall. Now, in that movie, he was more of an anti-hero than like a gangster.
Right.
So
there's still mob.
Yeah.
But,
Johnny and I had different opinions on, if it'd have been better if he had lived or if he had died, one way or the other. So that's that. But yeah, for gangster movies, you do kind of need that resolution, that bad guy gets his comeuppance kind of thing, like the life of violence and crime that price has been paid. The debt to society has been wiped away at the end.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and I guess and to speak to Gary's point with, you know, should they have died at the end? Actually, really to the antihero. Most of the time in these films, if you look at stereotypical society standards, most of the protagonists in the gang or mafia related films are portrayed as bad guys, but bad guys with
a heart of gold.
A heart of gold.
Just like Darth Vader. Nope, not right at all.
Hey, man, he had redeeming qualities. That's why we were sad when he died.
That's a whole other discussion.
That is a whole nother discussion, but it plays into this one a little bit. You know, so yeah, you absolutely have to. I think you have to have that with most films, but yeah, absolutely with gangster films. Luke, how do you feel typically after watching one of those two types of films? Like, what's kind of like, how do you like? Does it empower you to like want to go out and kick some ass and take some names, or is it kind of just like, I enjoyed watching that, I'd watch it again? Or
I don't know, I feel like they're almost just like parables, you know. That's how I feel. It's just like, oh man, there but for the grace of God. That's what happens when you fuck around in this world. Like, you get yours.
Ian, how about you?
Euphoric.
Euphoric.
It feels euphoric after you watch a gangster film. Interesting. Okay.
Well, yeah. More specifically, like, I don't know. It's especially if it's a well-made movie. You know, it's like watching an action movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Certainly, most of those movies are. Gary, you always so eloquently put it as popcorn films. Is that?
Yeah, just popcorn action films. You want to just sit back and not turn your mind on.
I mean, I don't consider, like, I don't watch Goodfellas or Godfather. I mean, maybe Scarface, but I mean, I don't really consider them action movies. I consider them more like, you know, crime, suspense, like.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't say it is. I said it's similar to, in a way that, like, not Godfather so much, but like The Warriors more, like, you know, movies like that where, like, I don't know, a lot of people get, and there's a lot of like fight scenes and just violence and stuff like that. I don't know. Like I said, you know, it depends on the movie itself and, you know, what kind of movie it is. But yeah, I mean, yeah, certainly there's the crime films, but either way, I feel good and I guess kind of a rush from watching these movies.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Gary, how about you? What do you take away from these gangster films?
You know, whenever I walk out of a theater after watching a gangster film, especially like if it's like I got a coat on or something, you know, you gotta like, you know, pull the coat, you know, and adjust yourself.
Like the Untouchables, almost like you got a piece in the side right here. You know,
you gotta
your pistol
that,
or your revolver, whatever.
It's a fun role to play because it's kind of, you know, I'm gonna try and not talk like a gangster. It's kind of. You know, macho, you know, it's like you're in control of your own destiny. And, you know, a lot of times that road that you're traveling on does not lead to perdition, but rather just, as, you know, was said in the third act, a fall of some sort, like with Scarface being probably the most famous. So, but like, it does kind of make you feel like, hey, I could be kind of a rebel, but it also does, I think, to Luke's point, kind of talk more in a parable term, like don't be bad and kill people for money because you'll end badly.
Absolutely. And a lot of times too, I've always appreciated about gangster films in general. We talked about this when we were doing an episode earlier today on the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1, and we talked about why people loved Iron Man and Captain America so much. Iron Man for the fact that he was an unconventional hero, and Captain America because he was the underdog. If you kind of look at it in a lot of these gangster films, most of the protagonists are underdogs. And I've personally always rooted for the underdog in general. Typically, they're always being chased by Johnny Law. You know, they've always got that on that one side. They're typically trying to hold on or claim territory that they couldn't have before. You know, typically they've got some redeeming qualities, so it makes them on that spectrum of a villain with a heart of gold kind of thing. So certainly love rooting for them because of those reasons. But yeah, honestly, my biggest thing when I walk out of there, especially a Mafia film, is just just how you're talking, you know. It's like I walk out and I start doing the "Am I funny?" scene from Goodfellas.
He does. I can swear to that. Even if it's not a mafia movie, he'll just start it.
Or I start talking about "No, I Can't Refuse" from The Godfather. You know, you just love doing that. You know, that's the beauty of film and the beauty of TV is it makes you feel a way that you wouldn't normally feel, makes you look at the world in a different way, lets your imagination run wild. You know, it helps you let loose, which is just absolutely fantastic. So I guess what makes a great gangster film? What components make a great gangster film? Is it the type of characters do you need to have certain specific types of like archetypes? Do you have to have that? Is there a particular era it needs to be set in? What about the score? You know, is the score or even the soundtrack, are those specific songs that you need to hear? For everybody, it's different. I think it's obviously subjective. So Luke, I'll jump to you. For you personally, what do you look for in a great gangster film?
Authenticity is the biggest thing for me.
Okay.
Like you can tell, like when it feels real and it feels like that's one of the reasons the Scorsese movies are so good is because all those guys really feel like they're street guys. They talk the way that those street guys talk and they have the slang and stuff like that. And
right.
I was going to say score too, but I think score is important for every movie, but this will kind of lead into the movie that I think is a paradox because I think the acting and the writing is mostly really, really good, but god damn, the music in this movie is so bad. And it's Donnie Brasco. And I love Al Pacino in that movie. But god, that director is just... I don't know. It's like a first person. It's like the first time a director uses score. He's like, okay, now sad orchestral music because it's sad and it's really it's and then it's disco. It's just disco and like really, really, really leaned into overly sentimental orchestral pieces, and it's so distracting. I literally have to put my head in my hand during some scenes because I can't believe, like, I'm sitting there picturing myself in the editing room thinking, can we make this more emotional? But authenticity for me is the biggest thing. Like that's why people like Pesci and De Niro are considered to be the best, because it feels like you're watching real street guys do their thing.
Right. Well, they made, it's funny you bring up Donnie Brasco because Mike Newell was the director of that. And he was I remember watching that a couple months ago for actually the first time, oddly enough. And so I was just researching it a little bit because I liked it, but I did think the soundtrack was not that great. He was such an odd pick because other movies he had done like 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and he did one of the Harry Potter films, and he did like High Fidelity.
He hadn't done Harry Potter yet
Traffic.
either. That was
he hadn't. But I just think if you go back and look at his list of films that he's directed, he really genre jumps like a lot. So I feel like for a gangster film, you have to have somebody, like we look at Boys in the Hood, and I don't remember so Boys in the Hood was John Singleton or John Singletary, right? John Singleton. Singletary, right? Okay. And I think Luke, did he do Friday too? I can't remember.
I don't know.
He didn't know. That's F. Gary Gray's.
Gotcha.
Friday.
Okay. But so you look at a guy like Singletary that has done a lot of that, or you look at like Antoine Fuqua or something who did Training Day, or Scorsese who's done a plethora of mob films. I think it takes a particular style of directing, because people love these types of movies based on the classics. And I've noticed personally from my own taste that when I see somebody come along and try to do something new with it, normally I like innovative new ways of looking at film and conveying the story to the audience, but I don't really with mob films. It's one of those genres that I want people to do it a certain way, so it's good, and I have a way that I like it, and I don't want it to differ from how it normally goes. And I don't know. I think, and you say that with Donnie Brasco, that was it wasn't even just the soundtrack. I had a couple qualms with it, but he was an odd pick for it for sure. He absolutely was.
Well, does that make you respect him more that he tried to branch out into a new genre?
There's always respect given to somebody that tries something new. But like I said, looking at his filmography, I mean, the guy did Mona Lisa Smiles, and he also did Donnie Brasco, and then and then the other ones that I had named, like let's see, what else did he have on here?
I mean, you can tell too, because those scenes between Anne Heche and Johnny Depp are just painful. They are so painful.
They are. And he's done a lot of movies that I don't like. Traffic was great. I love Traffic. High Fidelity wasn't bad.
High Fidelity is so underrated. High Fidelity is so fucking funny.
Yeah.
I need to rewatch that.
Hey, maybe I'll recommend it at the end of this podcast.
There you go.
So I claimed it. Just
it's not really a mobster movie, but
no, it's not. Shut up, Gary.
It is a good one.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Do I have respect for somebody that tries something new? Sure. But I prefer that. I like great directors to genre jump, but don't go so far away from what your bread and butter is to the point that you just butchers that genre completely. Not that Donnie Brasco did that, but there's plenty of mob films that have. Anyways, so moving on from that point, Greg, I turn to you. What makes a great gangster movie in your opinion, for you personally? What do you love?
Yeah, I mean, it's something interesting. I guess it kind of depends on what the director is specifically bringing to it. Like, being able to have ensemble casts and multiple storylines allows kind of like a creative director to play around with like kind of Scorsese's done with voiceover, freeze frames on top of them, multiple different voiceovers on there. Like, I found that being one of the more interesting things that I'm kind of looking for in that type of many storyline roles being told.
Sure, absolutely. Ian, how about you? What makes a great gangster movie? What do you look for when you're looking for a good gangster movie?
Well, definitely, I agree a lot with what Luke said of authenticity. That, totally, absolutely, and okay. I think he mentioned soundtrack too. Awesome, yeah. Also, I noticed not all of them, but majority of them, a good a variety of emotions. Definitely a lot of them have a good Goodfellas, Scarface, Menace to Society. They have fear, intense fear, but also really fun comedy, and then also real drop sadness, and then the fourth one, the best one, is the sense of badass. It's just you watch it, you're like, damn, that's badass.
Yep. And every movie needs their Joe Pesci. Absolutely.
But you know what every movie needs is a 10-minute push it to the limit montage.
Absolutely.
No, we need a 5-minute fucking what is that stupid? No, I forgot. I'm blanking on that Rolling Stones song. That's
push it to the limit. Oh yeah, that one too. Give me shelter.
Give me shelter. Yeah, if we don't have a give me shelter montage, then it doesn't count.
Yeah, you're right. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
Okay, Gary, how about you? What makes or breaks a gangster film for you?
Just the pacing of it is very important. So generally gangster films will start one of two ways. Either you've got the innocent guy who gets lured into the life of crime and then has, gets deeper and deeper into it, or you start off where the guy's already in the life of crime and he either dies or makes his way out or continues on. And I think that when you have a protagonist in a story with a gangster film, they have to have a reckoning of some sort. Mm-hmm. So if you look at The Godfather, Michael, he's got he starts off as somebody returning from the army. He's trying to live a good life, not be part of the mafia, and they just keep pulling him back in. And at the end of that movie, he has sort of a reckoning with himself when he accepts that he needs to be the Godfather. And spoiler alert on a 50-year-old movie. But,
for God's sake. If you haven't seen it yet and we spoiled it for you, no apologies. Go watch it.
He accepts that he is the Godfather, by the end of the first film. Whereas you have a movie like Goodfellas, right? The guy starts off already in the mob, doing
kind of
hood. Yeah, he's a hood rat doing hood rat things, as they say.
He's connected.
You see him go in, and it's done in a way to where, you as the audience can kind of be like, okay, I can see how a 14-year-old kid who maybe, you know, obviously Henry Hill wasn't straight laced, but even you as the audience can be like, okay, if I was this character, this kid Henry Hill, I could see how just doing some deliveries and moving some cars, making a couple $100 doing this, it puts you into that world in a way that doesn't just immediately turn you off, to be like, why would you hang around these nasty people?
Yeah, and I guess I say he started off in the mob because the opening of it is, for as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Yeah.
So
Wanted
it's
to be.
not. Yeah, but I mean, it's not. That's not something he did not consider or did not want, even from an early age. Whereas like with Michael Corleone,
I see what you mean. Yeah, he was in that world, even though he was in that world in his head. You're right.
Yeah, and so it with him, you kind of see. It kind of spirals down as he gets deeper and deeper involved, and has somewhat of a bit of he doesn't want to get in trouble, I guess. So that's somewhat of a turning point for him. And so anyway, I think that's really critical for mafia movies to have that turn where the character has an arc of whether they like want to get deeper and deeper involved, as Scarface does, and just take that to the limit. Or I see what you did there. Or if they want to try and get out of it, like analyze this, where he's trying to get out of the mob.
Right. I think for me, just even to speak to your point, you know, that story is character. Characters really do make the story, and I think that, you know, they breathe life into the script, obviously, you know, without them you couldn't have anything, you know. And gangsters, so mafia members and gang members, they both make for such really just these compelling, fascinating characters. You know, they come from we talked about the underdog rising through the ranks to get to the top, and we're always rooting for them, regardless if they are a stereotypical villain or not. They come from humble beginnings. You see the trials and the tribulations that they went through to get to the next part. I mean, you know, to find their home, to find their fame. I mean, the American dream, if you will. You know, back in the day, you start from nothing and then get everything, regardless if you do it legally or not. You know, like whether you're doing it through crime or not. So for me, that's always been the biggest thing. And most films based on mob and you know, gang related instances, they do that. I have, and I will say this, I mean, Goodfellas is, I've already said, is my favorite movie of all time, and I've said that on many episodes that we've had. And I stated this at the very beginning of season 1. Ian and I talked about this, the difference between the Godfather series and Goodfellas, and the one being more of an operetta and the other just being more of an actual authentic real life look at the lower levels of the mob. I didn't connect with The Godfather as much, and even to this day, I still don't. It's still a great movie, but it doesn't. For me, it doesn't touch Goodfellas. It doesn't even touch my top 10 of favorite films of all time, because I felt with a lot of the characters, sure, they may have had trials and tribulations that they went through when they were younger, and then they rose to prominence. But you start out the film, they're already there. You know, and I didn't, you know me, I like origin, I like backstory. I like to see how a character gets from point A to point B.
I mean,
even
Michael's
if it's just a monologue, you know, but he's connected. I know he went to the army, you know,
like
but
the whole point of the movie is Michael's change. Like, he's a completely different person by the end of, like, the movie is like his whole arc.
But he was born with silver spoon in hand, like in mouth. Like he already had it. He already had the ability to get there.
He was a legit guy. He wasn't going to do any of that stuff. He was going to go off.
That's why I don't personally find it to be one of my favorites, because you didn't see him start out as a street guy and work his way up. He was already there he was a prince. He was already sitting at the table, and he had everything in front of him to go get it.
He was outside. He wasn't going to do it, and then he wasn't going to be what his dad wanted. He was going to go legit from the beginning.
But that's
the
it
whole
right
movie
there.
is
His
about
dad
him
allowed him to do it
becoming-
because his dad was the head of that family. He had
He
the
wasn't going
opportunity
to do it. It was going
do
to go to Sonny. That's the whole
Doesn't
point.
matter.
It was going to go to Sonny.
Right.
Michael wasn't
And
supposed to do it.
To me, I understand the plot of Godfather. What I'm saying is it doesn't matter to me that it was supposed to go to Sonny. The fact is he already had the opportunity to do it. It was sitting there in front of him. If he wanted to take it, all he had to do was act. He didn't have to fight as much as these other characters from other films where they start at a lower level.
What does that have to do with his arc?
It doesn't have it doesn't have anything to do with his arc.
But what difference does it make whether it was there or not?
We're talking about what I find to make a good mobster film, and I prefer mobster films where the main protagonist starts at the bottom and works his way up, not already having it in hand with the option to get there with a snap of a finger.
Yeah. So Johnny, I can't remember, but when we were talking about the antagonists in film, did you say that like Man versus Destiny or Man versus God was one of your least favorite?
Oh shit! Did I?
I
don't remember.
But
It's
like
been so long.
because it's kind of like that way with Michael. Like he even though he is, as you said, a prince and like is right there, he doesn't want that life, and he's chosen a different life.
I agree with both you and Luke. You're right. He does not want that.
Right.
That's
So,
very true.
So the struggle with him is more of him not wanting to go with destiny, and trying to oppose that,
Right.
rather than like struggling to get to the top.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, just like I just said to Luke, my argument is not with his arc at all. It's with where the story puts him at the beginning, and I prefer Goodfellas because these guys started from the bottom and they were lower level and they worked their way up instead of just already being there and having the option. So,
Okay.
We're talking about what to you makes the best gangster film.
Okay.
To me, that is what makes the best gangster film. So, obviously
enough.
everybody doesn't agree, and that's okay. So moving past that though, as far as the best, let's jump into best gangster films of all time. Like I said earlier, this can totally, you can totally have any gang or hood related film you want to, any mafia film. If you want to throw a cartel film in there, you're more than welcome to. But I would absolutely love to hear everybody's top 5. And they don't have to be in any particular order. They can just be jumbled around. It's not a problem. So let's go ahead and we will let our guests go first. Ian, I think we haven't started with you first, so let's let you go in there. It's okay if we double up. It's perfectly fine. What would be the first movie that would pop up on your top 5 of greatest gangster films of all time?
So first, is it just top number 1 best of all time?
Yeah, if you'd like to rank them, you can. I was just going to let everybody, just because that's a lot.
Probably going to be the same one as majority of us, and that's Goodfellas.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Right on.
Same.
And yeah. Okay. And Greg is like, well, obviously that just pops in. I would jump in and say that's the same for me. Luke, how about you?
That's tough because they're distinctly excellent. It's tough. God damn it. I might have to go. I might have to go with the original Godfather. And okay. It's funny as I'm like Johnny. Ian remembers this, I'm sure, because I used to rail on this. Is that movie did not connect with me most of my life until I was literally in my 30s, and I watched it again for the first time in like 15. I was like, this movie is genius.
It's a very well done film.
Yeah, I'm about to say not 30s, like mid to late 20s, but yeah.
Okay. Gary, how about you?
It's a more mature film.
Yeah, definitely the best gangster movie is The Godfather. I don't. To me, that's not even a close one. I think The Godfather's got it's a beautifully done movie.
It is. It's an
pacing
opera.
of it.
Purely 3 acts. Love it.
Themes, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lots of themes and motifs. Yeah. Or was that it? You normally have a lot more, Gary. I expected more from you than just The Godfather.
Oh, I mean, like, The Godfather is like the I Ching. The Godfather is the sum of all wisdom. What should I pack for my summer vacation? Leave the gun, take the cannoli. What day of the week is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday? Go to the mattresses.
It was the sequel to Sleepless in Seattle, right? That movie that you were just
yes,
there.
You've Got Mail. Now that's a great movie. No, but The Godfather's like it's got so many like memorable characters and moments in it, and the way that and as you said it's more of like an operetta, in that it's really majestic in scope and how it's
everything's
told.
regal.
Yeah,
everything.
Whereas like Goodfellas is like dirty and to the streets. And
It's
like
different sides though. Like Goodfellas is about like the low to mid-level guys, and The Godfather is about like Luciano and the five families. Well, I mean, obviously it's Corleone, but it's like based off of like the guys who were like the real, you know, Bugsy Siegel and all those like the real players, you know, Meyer Lansky, and so it's like. No, it's just a different side. It's like a movie about history. Like, yeah, there's going to be some movies that are going to talk about the kings and queens, and there's going to be some movies that talk about the peasants. Whether they're talking about one or the other isn't of particular importance to me. It's the character development, you know, is what makes it good. The writing, you know.
Yeah, and so the Godfather, me, I think, is just Michael's character arc in that is just so well done. And like, I mean, I can't even imagine how many like spinoffs and spoofs and classes have been taught on The Godfather and its style. So to me, yeah, Godfather is numero uno for Mafia movies.
I feel this way. It's tough for me. The hesitation I had with saying The Godfather is because like I really like 2 a lot. And I hold 2 in almost as high esteem as I hold 1. In a way, I almost view them as kind of like the Snyder cut. Like it's all kind of one movie to me. You know what I mean?
So let's jump over to everybody's number 2. I guess we're ranking them here. So Gary, let's go ahead and we'll work back around. What would you say kind of pops out for you on number 2 on your list?
Number 2, I was going to give it to Scarface, but I think I'm going to move that down to number 3 just because I don't want Al Pacino to have the top 2 spots. I don't think that's right.
Still a reason?
That's not, no.
Okay.
Scarface. I was just kidding about that. Okay. I think Scarface is a great, it's very, it's very much a product of its time, 1980. And just
very Miami.
Hits those keys just fine. And I love the really over the top, but hey, it was the 80s. But I love the over the top end scene. I think that's perfect. He gets killed, and it's one of the most iconic and memorable death scenes in all of film.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah,
it is. And greatest quotes of all time.
Yeah.
How many great lines just in that last 10 minutes? How many great one-liners does he throw out?
Yeah. I mean, just like just sitting at that fucking mountain of cocaine with his fucking TV monitor showing him the house. Like, it's like Scarface, I think, was really well done. And again, Johnny, you'd like it because it shows like somebody's ascent into
have you not seen
power.
Scarface? No, he's kidding. Yeah, I've seen Scarface.
Oh, okay. No, sorry, I didn't. Sorry.
No, it's okay. He's just being a dick.
Showing the ascent into power and then the quick descent out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, you're absolutely right. And I'll jump back to myself really quick. I guess I didn't do mine, but number 1 for me would have been Goodfellas. Absolutely.
Oh,
Gary.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay.
You're
Stop the presses.
Holy crap. Even though, and I stated, Ian, were you with us when we did most memorable opening scenes? Or Luke,
yes.
were one of you guys with us?
Yes.
You were with us. Okay. And I had even said that Goodfellas was not, like, its opening scene was not one of my favorites. The monologue is great.
I definitely disagreed with you on that.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a punch in the face. That first 2 minutes of that movie is like, whoa, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I made a huge case against him.
Yeah. And Gary and Ian were certainly ragging on me for that. And I have gone back since then and just watched on YouTube the opening scene. Because I've seen the movie probably 50 something times at this point.
At least.
3 or 4 times, yeah.
That's one of my most vivid memories of the movie. Because like everyone was telling me like Goodfellas is a classic. And I remember being 12 or 13, whatever it was, the first a freshman in high school, or whatever, the first time I saw it. And like they just start stabbing Frank Vincent, and you're like, holy shit.
Yep. And I think what I had said originally was that when I had first seen Goodfellas, I was 23. I think I was pretty old. I had not seen it when I was younger. So I had seen a lot of movies that had opening scenes similar to that, which obviously stole from Goodfellas. It seemed like.
Emulated.
Yeah. Well,
We're influenced.
yeah, you're right. I guess they
by.
didn't verbatim, line for line, shot for shot.
One man's
steal it.
theft is another man's homage.
For sure. So I kind of had always felt like that, but I've gone back and I watched it a couple times, and I certainly appreciate it. It's still not my favorite opening scene of all time, but still love it. It's the rest of the film that made me fall in love with it for sure. Certainly a classic, and that's one of two Scorsese films that I have on here. You might be able to tell who my favorite director is. But my number 2 was, oddly enough, was actually, since we're going to add in the gang-related films, would be Boys in the Hood. I had, God, man, I certainly haven't seen that one. I've actually seen Godfather more times than I've seen Boys in the Hood. I've seen, I don't know. You kind of lose count. I would guess like a dozen times, maybe more, maybe less, but over time. With that one, we talk about the characters rising to prominence. None of those guys actually got there, but as far as authentic movies go, growing up in the hood, I wouldn't know anything about that. Growing up in an impoverished area like that, I would have no sense of how they would deal with that or anything. But from everything that I've seen and read, it was pretty damn accurate. We talked about the authenticity factor earlier, and there's really no more authentic film that depicts gang-related incidents and how it affects the civilians that live in that area more than Boys in the Hood. And also just the soundtrack is just fantastic.
It's great.
So that would be my 2. Luke, what about you?
This is number 2.
Yeah.
So the same way I had Godfather 1 and Godfather 2 as sort of, the same, equally tied for favorite, I'm going to have Casino and Goodfellas equally tied for number 2.
He's cheating.
Okay. All right.
I mean,
I love it. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
They're the same movie. Prove me wrong.
Actually,
you always tell people that Casino is like a sequel.
Fair. Same. Yeah. Except for the fact that Joe Pesci's still alive.
Different characters, but it's the same movie.
Oh, I see. Same universe, different people. I see. Okay. All right. Well, I'm following you now. I've seen those online. Like I've seen like the rumors. They're like, oh, it's actually all connected, or it's like Breaking Bad and Malcolm in the Middle were connected because Bryan Cranston was just dreaming the whole time.
No, but it's just
he was actually Hal the entire time.
The beats are the same. The characters,
Right.
De Niro plays the same. Like it's basically a different context on the same. You know what I mean? It's in every. I mean, it's it's a little higher up, but it's basically the same movie.
Yeah. And I mean, once again, that's just a testament to the directing style, of course, of Scorsese, doing both of them. But it's still good, regardless if it's so similar. It's great. Yeah, I agree.
That's why it's like number 2 of, what I mean? Like they're fantastic. Both of them, they're distinctly excellent, and I just don't think you could objectively say one over the other. They're both equally excellent in their own ways. And so they just have to be, and again, they are basically the same.
Well, we'll get to that one in a second. Greg, how about you? What was your number 2?
Yeah, it's actually funny coming off that. So I had Goodfellas at 1 and I had Casino at 2. So
okay, right on.
So I kind of have to go into like the context. I think of this Goodfellas is specifically one of the things that I saw when I was a kid and it wanted me to make films. I mean, I think it set a lot of the pace for the '90s. It influenced Tarantino. It influenced Paul Thomas Anderson. You had Steadicam one shots coming out of that, and people kind of trying to rip that off. You had the Jules and Jim fast paced opening, the multiple voiceovers, the freeze frames, and same thing.
Giving dignity to voiceovers, like. Not having people look at voiceovers like, oh, you're gonna VO that.
Exactly. It gave it completely a new style, and it was being able to do it between in Goodfellas, I think he had 2 characters that you had voiceovers, but by Casino, he'd blown that into 4 or 5 different voiceovers that you're hearing from people. Like it was,
and by dead people too.
Yeah.
I hear dead people.
Yep, wrong genre, Gary.
That's
wrong
paranormal
movie.
romance. Sorry,
that's paranormal romances. Okay, people are really gonna have to listen to all of our episodes to get these inside jokes. Oh man, love it. Greg, I'm sorry. Please keep going before you were rudely interrupted by the panel.
No. That's basically it. That was my rant on why I put those at 1 and 2.
Gotcha. Love it, man. Yeah, I'm right there with you. So let's see, who did I not? Gary, did you go? Ian, Ian, I think you're the only one that hadn't gone. So go ahead, Ian. You're number 2.
Yeah, it's all good. Okay, so I wanted to say that this is the best movie of all time, but I just love Goodfellas so much. So Goodfellas was number 1. For my number 2, this is a movie that I think everybody in the world can agree with. If you haven't seen it, then I don't know what you're doing with your life. You need to watch it. Pause this podcast right now, watch it, then come back. If you don't agree that this is one of the best ever, then you need to reevaluate your life seriously. I'm talking, of course, about Leprechaun in the Hood.
Oh my
Are
sweet
you
Jesus!
fucking kidding?
Quite so.
Ian,
I'm totally
it sucks.
kidding.
This is your
I'm
last
kidding.
episode, Ian. It sucks. This is your last episode.
How
You
many
guys,
times have you said that?
That was
I do
actually
say it a
not
lot.
the worst Leprechaun movie though. So I'll
Leprechaun
give
in
you
Space
credit.
was pretty bad, but Leprechaun in,
Back to the Hood.
Oh, the second Hood movie, yeah.
that was a bad fucking movie, man. It was a horrible fucking movie.
It's fucking terrible. No,
He starts
wait,
rapping at the end.
I think I know where you're going, Ian. I bet you.
I agree with Johnny. Boys in the Hood is fantastic. Fantastic. It is like I said earlier, it's got all the elements, all the emotions. There's parts that you can laugh, you can cry. There's terrifying parts that just like scare the shit out of you. At the end, dude, I don't think any movie has actually like made me cry more than the end of Boys in the Hood. Like I tear up at that shit when Ice Cube, like, spoiler, his brother gets shot. He spends the whole movie protecting his brother, and then takes him when he gets killed. He takes him to his mom's house, and his mom blames him for it, and it's just
How sad is that?
so fucked up.
Yeah, how sad is that? You love to hate Doughboy, and then you hate to love him at the same time because he's great, but he's not.
He's a no good fucking hood rat, and it's just like
His brother's a
I
problem.
don't buy that.
It motivates what he does at the end, because it's like
Right.
you see he's just like, fuck it. Like,
but at the end of the day, he's protecting his older brother. And like his brother's about to get out of the hood, and he's couldn't be more proud of him and everything. No matter like how much differences there are between two, like he's family, and he always comes first.
Yeah.
And that and the Lawrence Fishburne, like his character is just fantastic.
Larry Fishburne at the time, just a heads up. Just so we're on the same page.
When you're in the hood, your family.
When you're in the hood, your family. Is that how it goes, Gary?
Yeah.
His like when he's talking to his son about stuff about being a man, just about he's talking to people about why the ghetto's so fucked up, and it's just like he's such a great role model.
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah, I mean, he keeps his, you see Cuba Gooding Jr. come in and get the revolver. He's about to walk out the door, and he's like, Trey, give me the gun. Give me the gun. He's like, it's kind of like, it's almost like another really good one. I don't want to get completely off track, but in Friday, and that's one that Luke introduced me to when we were roommates when I was like 23 or 24. I can't believe I'd gone that long without
10
seeing
years
it.
ago.
It was a while back. But the scene where where John Witherspoon's talking to Cube, and he's like, what was the exact line, Luke? He's like, we fight with these, and he holds up his fists. And he's like,
you kids afraid today are too afraid to take an ass whooping.
Yeah, exactly. And then he goes out and he beats the crap out of Debo somehow. He does it, it's the underdog.
Well, the script said that he had to win, so
yeah. Plot armor +4.
That would have sucked if the script said he just dies. I would have felt very.
If the script said he won and he lost, then what would you do?
That would be weird.
Yeah,
because
that would be avant-garde. That would be so progressive.
It's
so meta. Oh my god.
It's like us doing black and whites in front of the Marfa store in Prada.
There's that part where he actually like shoots him, and then it turns out that he didn't actually shoot him.
He just daydreamed about it. Yeah.
We hope that you are enjoying this rousing episode of Let Feather Productions' I Don't Give a Flick. To help us bring you more of the content that you love, please consider following us on Patreon at patreon.com/leadfeather. There are 3 tiers to choose from, with special and exclusive merchandise in our VIP level. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.
Okay, so let's jump into our third pick. So we'll snake back around. We'll snake back around. Ian, what was your third pick?
I want to go to The Godfather for that one. That is okay. It's y'all already said enough about it. It's amazing. It's incredible.
Okay. All right. Well, let's kind of we'll hop a little bit. Greg, how about you? What was your third?
So my third on here is interesting. I never really thought of this movie as a strict up mafia or specifically gang related thing. But when you said the kind of mafia or gang related, I sat down, I was thinking about them, and I was like, well, this does to me fit the criteria for it. So I was like, I got to go with Pulp Fiction for this.
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
right on. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but that fits. It fits really, right in there.
Every one of the the streamlines that are going throughout the whole thing, it's all gang related.
Yeah,
definitely,
absolutely. God, yeah, I didn't think about that. Well, can I change my top 5 now? Like,
no,
I didn't even think. Come on, it's not fair. No. That's not fair.
You had to submit it by midnight last night.
This is stupid. Whoever came up with this itinerary and topic.
Too bad you don't have connections with the guy who does the podcast.
Too bad.
I could help you out, but it would cost something. You'd owe me a favor.
I wish I knew the showrunner.
If I could ever be of a benefit to you.
One day, someone may come to you.
Luke, what was your number 3?
Layer Cake. Layer Cake.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
That's a goddamn genius movie.
Love
I like that it's got the same kind of edginess that like the what's his face, Guy Ritchie, Matthew Vaughn pairings always had. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of tell when Matthew Vaughn stopped working with Guy Ritchie, the edge kind of went away on Guy Ritchie's work, and it became a little bit more unremarkable. But as much as I love Snatch and I love Lock, Stock, I think Layer Cake is so fucking good. The writing on that movie is so good, and obviously it's based on a book, but Daniel Craig is great. Everybody in that movie is great. And then just, the end scene where they explain what the Layer Cake is. It's just one of those things I saw when I was 18, and you just kind of chuckle, and then the more you go through life, you're like, damn, that's some real knowledge that was dropped. Right. Yeah, Layer Cake is probably, that's such a great movie.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That movie was the first time I developed my man crush on Tom Hardy.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's an important moment.
Clocky got double fest from
Come on,
Cambridge in industrial chemistry.
Oh man, dude. Yeah, we should just do one on Guy Ritchie too. I know there's a Matthew Vaughn movie, I know, but I just we're talking about that, and I was thinking of Wrath of Man, and anyways, I could go off on another tangent. Gary, your third.
For Guy Ritchie.
My third one is Goodfellas. Everyone else has picked it and mentioned everything about it, and it's a great movie.
Yes, indeed it is. Yes, indeed. My third,
including this introduction scene.
Yeah,
including this introduction scene.
Absolutely.
That's a boring intro.
I'm not gonna, I can't argue with you guys on it anymore. I certainly appreciate it. For me, the third would have to be The Godfather. Like I said earlier, it's top 10 favorite films. It falls into my top 20 kind of thing for those personal preferences. But it's still, it is the quintessential Mafia film. Like, as much as I think Goodfellas is a better movie, you can't walk away after watching it and being like, yeah, that reminds me of something that's not Mafia related.
Yeah.
That reminds me of something that's not the mob. Yeah. No, you can't. There's just everything about it, from the artistic direction to the score itself, to the characters, just how they move, just Brando's performance by himself. Like, even if you take Pacino and James Caan and Duvall out, it's still obviously a stellar cast, but just him by himself and the limited screen time he has, It's just it blows your mind, man. As far as cinematic checklist, I always go through that. It checks pretty much every box. So that's a third for me. We'll switch this up a little more even. Greg, let's jump to you. What was
Alphabetical.
What was your fourth?
Yep, I had Godfather at 4 there. So you guys have covered it really, really, really well. So I can't add too much more to it, but it's solidly there.
Absolutely, right on. Luke, how about you? Your fourth.
For number 4, probably Snatch.
Okay, right on. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah, always a good one. Gary, you haven't seen Snatch yet, have you? We talked about this last night, right?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't seen it.
We're watching that tonight. That's
Okay.
why I was asking. I was like,
Is
okay.
that that porno film?
Yes, it is the porno film, the softcore porn with Brad Pitt and Jason Statham.
Yep. We did talk about softcore earlier today.
We did. We had an actress on who was in a movie called. I'm sorry.
Would jerk off.
Okay, something about masturbation. Wonderful. Gary, your fourth one, Gary.
My fourth one is going to be Guys and Dolls. No one ever thinks. No, I'm just kidding. My fourth one is American
I was about
Gangster.
to scream over the entire rest of your.
Just scream for 30 minutes straight. Why are you picking that?
Guys and Dolls is a great movie, but it's not a movie I think of when I think of a mobster movie. American Gangster, I really like how they divided the time fairly equally between the gangster and the cop. Sure. Russell Crowe and Denzel Washington. It's a long movie. I know Johnny will like it because it's about the rise of a person from nothing to head of the little mafia group. Yeah. And I just really like
Mr. Lucas.
I just really like how they did it. And I thought it was well paced. It had good. It had everything you want. It was set in I think the 70s. It had chase scenes and action and drugs. So everything you'd want from a mafia movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course the fall at the end, which is always what you need.
But of course.
Or redemption.
Of course, Gary. Like every story, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not just mafia films.
Like Darth Vader.
Yeah. Like Darth Vader, the villain with the heart of gold.
Sort of like poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah.
Circles within circles.
Ian, what's your fourth?
Okay, so let's rewind a little bit and go back to Boys in the Hood. If you like that movie and you want a good double feature, something to follow it, something that's like poetry, it rhymes, something that is very similar but
don't
different.
Build this up and make it a piece of crap like you did with Leprechaun in the Hood. Is this a good one, or is this one of your movies so bad they're good?
No, he's him and Han.
No, it's seriously one of my favorite movies. I've rewatched it many times. No, seriously, a great follow up to Boys in the Hood. I'm talking about Menace to Society.
Okay, I don't even think I've heard of that before. Menace to Society.
You haven't heard of it?
I don't think so. Let me look it up real quick.
Really? That's a classic.
Yeah,
Menace really to Society. Okay, Menace to Society. Okay.
Is it Menace the number 2 Society?
It's the number 2.
It's the sequel to just Menace
2. It's actually, it's Menace Roman numeral 2 Society.
Awesome.
Right on.
It's the sequel to Menace 1 Society. But it's a really great hood flick. Everything I said about Boys in the Hood, it's very similar. It's not. It's less sad, but more like terrifying. Like there is some scary shit that goes on in this movie, and it's more. I guess a little bit more over the top, but still a huge drama. Like people just straight up get murdered in this movie, left and right. But the main character, he's like in limbo. He doesn't know if he knows he'll die if he maintains the hanging out with these people and doing this gangster stuff. But on the other side, he knows he needs to get out, but he's not sure if he's really if he should. So there's a lot of battling with morals in this movie. And talking about a soundtrack, the soundtrack is amazing. Like you watch it and you're like, dude, this is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, straight up.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check it out again. It's been quite some time since I've seen it. My number 4 kind of just sticks with, I had mentioned Scorsese again, so my number 4 is going to have to be The Departed. I've just always enjoyed those films where you've got two.
What movie?
The Departed.
Oh,
Did you know The Departed?
The Departed.
Oh,
The Departed.
I got you.
Go save
My
a kitten
bad.
from go save a kitten from a fucking tree, huh?
Yeah, you fucking
You know?
fireman. Bunch of fucking queens.
Oh man,
Great movie. Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson, man. Jack Nicholson. Fuck, you actually get an opportunity to see Mark Wahlberg show his true colors and be the asshole that we all know him to be. And
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's-
he's not really acting.
Not really. He's just himself. You know what's funny is out of that entire all-star cast, the only one to get nominated for an Oscar.
Really?
Yep.
No
only one.
way.
Go back and look. If you don't believe me, go back and look.
That just goes to prove once again that the Oscars are ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, he was like not
He was
even
good. He was fine.
He was fine, but he was like barely a supporting role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the idea, I mean, that he was the strongest performance in that, and
There's-
kind of like,
yeah.
get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I would like to
Forget
think
about
that
it.
that forget about it. I'd like to think that they knew that guys like DiCaprio, Nicholson, Damon, Sheen, Baldwin, like those 5 are always going to bring it.
It's
And so with
political.
Wahlberg,
It's
they're like,
political.
oh yeah, and they're like, oh, they've all been nominated
Yeah.
before or
Yeah,
whatever.
just- he can't do it. It's just soft bigotry of low expectations. It's fine.
There you go. They give Marky Mark a little pat on the head.
There you go, Marky
They're
Mark.
like, here you go, bud.
Did he win that year?
No, he
Okay,
didn't win.
all right.
No, he did not win. But The Departed, I always personally, outside of the mob films and just the fact that they had, oh God, who was it Flogging Molly that they used for the final song, or was it
No,
God, what
it
other
was
Irish
fucking-
band? Who's
No,
the
yeah,
other one?
it was the. Oh, you're gonna I know them too. It's
Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah.
Dropkick
Yeah,
Murphy. Yep.
Dropkick Murphys, yeah. And I just love the fucking soundtrack. That oh my God, it just
Song
it-
is the jam.
yeah, man. It pumped me up every single time.
Whenever I'm trying to go to sleep, I put that on and just
Yeah,
kinda
you like
drift
to
off.
get pumped up before
Yeah.
you pass out.
that and Mortal Kombat, they just play after each other.
You realize that you just put your little headphones on and with your snuggles and listen to the Mortal Kombat.
Just snuggling with his little pink teddy,
Flawless
I was just actually just
And
watched that
that's what
movie
puts you to
last night.
sleep.
Still holds up. Still holds up as a crossover between Enter the Dragon and Star Wars.
Interesting.
Johnny was just on my podcast. We talked about
Yep.
Mortal Kombat.
And
Check out
the
that
95.
episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Oh,
we
did
Gary
you,
and I actually
Johnny?
watched
It's funny. I didn't think Johnny was that familiar with the franchise.
the Mortal Kombat franchise.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. So I had watched Mortal Kombat, the 95 one, before. I felt like I watched it with you back in the day, is what I was trying to remember, like way back, like when we were like 18, like just graduated from high school that summer. But I rewatched it the other night before that episode, and then Gary and I that night watched the remake that they just recently came out with. So we'll certainly get into that in another episode. But
It's
I
still-
could,
it's still
I could
new.
talk for 4 hours about that fucking.
I bet you could.
We should definitely do an
Disgusting.
episode on that then.
Yeah, well, we can. Hey, man, we can do an.
Well,
we
we're
might do an
actually-
episode with video game movies.
Actually, my podcast, I got a bunch of people who both loved and hated that movie, and we're going to have a debate in my podcast.
Boot, let's do it. So anyway, so The Departed, I love that one just so much because I enjoy films where they have two moles on opposite sides of the spectrum, and you see how everything's unraveling from both sides, and that's always really intriguing to me. And I love that.
I just love that everybody dies in the end.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's just I love movies
Except Marky Mark.
Marky
and Alec
Mark.
Baldwin. Alec Baldwin doesn't die either.
where yeah, but
Marky Mark lives. Marky Mark
Yeah. He
does.
is the arbiter of justice, as
That's
the
right.
world should be.
and I guess psychiatrist lady lives too, but all the
Yeah,
main
Farrah
characters.
Farmiga's character.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
dies
Well,
on the inside.
Yeah,
She dies eventually, right?
yeah, I'm sure she does. I'm sure Marky
Old
Mark
age
takes
or
care of it.
something.
yeah. But I just love movies where like because at the end when he's trying to get in the elevator, like he gets shot and then he gets shot. Like the movie just keeps churning with who's on top for like 5 or 6 seconds, and
Yeah,
so good choice.
yeah.
Did
absolutely.
anybody else notice? Maybe this was just me, but that great scene at the end when Matt Damon gets off the elevator not with Leo, but like, you know, when he goes into his apartment.
Yeah, and he tries to say hello to the little dog, and the dog
pulls
like
away,
jumps
and
back.
I said,
yeah,
he's about to die. I
Yep,
said, as
yep,
soon
yep,
as I
yep.
saw that, I was like, he's about to die. I don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen, but that is a sign that death is following him.
Yep.
There's actually an X. Every time somebody dies, there's an X somewhere on screen.
Really?
Where is it in that one? Must be in the
I don't know about-
apartment, right?
Yeah.
I'm,
In every
I'm not
movie
sure
ever, I don't
exactly
know
where,
about that.
but yeah, there is definitely an X everywhere when somebody's about to die.
Yeah, I'm sure we can look that up. I'm sure that might be the same for some movies. So let's jump into our final. Let's go ahead and round out our list before we try to collectively come up with a Mount Rushmore plus one, as we so like to call it on this podcast, with our collective top 5. That should be fun. Let's get everybody's 5th one, though. I'll go ahead since I'm already going. I'll go mine. God, man, I was super close to putting Scarface and Training Day. I was kind of debating between those, but then Luke, you had brought up Layer Cake, and then I saw Tom Hardy, and I was like, I can't believe I forgot to mention Legend, about the Cray twins,
right?
and the I just actors
fucking shootout. The greatest.
He's like, you're a hollow waste inside, aren't you? You won't be able to
wanker."
procreate ever.
He's got hammers in his. Oh, that was great.
You don't bring guns you don't bring knives to a fucking gunfight. Oh, God, I love it, dude.
What does
Anyways,
he say? Very fucking disappointing.
So for those that aren't familiar, it's Tom Hardy playing the Cray twins, which were the notorious, basically the main British mob in the 70s,
Like the Capone of like Britain,
pretty much, of London, right?
Building up their own thing and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And he plays both parts. So for me, even when the movie is weaker, I mean, the movie as a whole, would I put it on a Goodfellas level? No, I wouldn't. But Tom Hardy's performance as the twins, one as the psychotic gay brother, and then the other as the calculated, devilish, the head of the family, just him by himself. It was kind of like Scarface for me. Like, I remember, not that the movie Scarface was bad, I'm just saying that I remember Tony Montana. That's what I remember. And I don't remember nothing else, but I don't remember much else. And it's the same thing with Legend. I've actually seen that. That's been one of the most recent mob movies that I've been watching, because I kind of went on a kick. I was watching Lawless, and watching that and rewatching Dark Knight Returns and Bronson. And anyways, Layer Cake for me, just his performance in that. And I was pissed when he didn't get an Oscar nod for that, because he did such a tremendous job. 2 characters, and they're so different. And you also get to see inside like the British Mafia, which is not super common. We don't really get to see we don't have a ton of movies on the British mob. So that was a nice change of pace for sure. Anyway, so that was my number 5. Let's go ahead, Ian. Let's jump to you on this one. What's your number 5? What rounds out your list?
This was so tough because there's so many other movies.
Yeah,
like, I mean, you just named 2 of them, like Scarface and Training Day, and then there's Gangs of New York, and then there's Clockwork Orange, and then there's Warriors. But I might have to go with Dead Presidents.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, all sorts of movies. You could also say it's a Vietnam War movie. It's all sorts of stuff, but it's pretty much like at some point everything goes on in this movie that leads to the main character going back to setting up a heist he forms a gang, and basically, he's been doing gangster shit this whole time, whether it's in the war, if it's in the streets, or if it's him trying to provide for his family. So I'd say it's a gangster film, a little bit unorthodox, but that is so good. Also, same directors as from Menace to Society. So those guys are really good. And the soundtrack is just phenomenal. It's just a bunch of 70s soul music, which is just great. So I'm Dead Presidents.
Okay, right on. Gary, how about you? Let's jump to you on this one. Your fifth one.
My fifth one is going to be The Untouchables. It's
That's another good one, yeah.
Kevin Costner, Sean Connery film about Alfonso Capone and how the U.S. Treasury, in coordination with the Chicago PD, or at least two members of it, helped bring him down. It's a excellent movie. Yeah.
Right on.
And speaking of opening scenes, that one has probably one of the best. It's where the camera's just showing Al Capone, get shaved, I believe, and like he gets nicked. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's a really excellent movie with a lot of quotable lines, and I like seeing the gangster fall at the end of the movie.
Okay. All right. Greg, how about you? What rounds out your list?
Yeah, so what I had rounding it out, I had Scarface, but since everybody said it enough, I'll just randomly throw in for my number 5. I'll do Sexy Beast. You brought up British gangsters as well, and that one specifically is like the guy made it through his entire career that we didn't get to see. He's retired. He's just sitting around getting fat, sitting next to a pool, and then all chaos gets hit, and they pull him back in. But I just recently rewatched that again like a month ago. I hadn't seen it since, maybe the last 15 years or something, but I was still impressed by it.
Right on. Yeah. I don't think I've seen that one actually. Let me look that.
Oh, check it out. It's a good Jonathan Glazer.
That's a good cast. Ray Winstone, Ben Kingsley, Ian McShane.
Oh yeah.
Like that.
Kingsley,
is that the movie?
Kingsley is a monster in that movie. Like it's really good.
Okay. Right on, man. Right on. Okay. Luke, how about you? What rounds out your top 5 into form?
Ooh, it's tough because both of them have been mentioned, and both of them. I will go because number 5. It'll be the one that is my favorito, and that would be Scarface of the two. It's between Training Day and Scarface, and I fucking love Training Day. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But it's hard for me to argue that it's better than The Godfather, so I'll put it aside for right now. But Scarface, of all the ones that I've listed, is definitely, from like a technical standpoint, from a movie making standpoint, the weakest. There's a fair amount of fat. There's some weird editing, and there's some weird writing, and there's some really bad ADR, and but it's still great. You know what I mean? Like it's still so there's the highs in Scarface. It's sort of like, Gary, are you there?
Yeah.
I consider Scarface like the TNG of gangster movies. Highs are awesome, and the lows are like, oh boy, what are you wearing? Why is this scene here?
Why is a guy wearing a skirt? Come on, God.
Damn.
Is there can you make an example of one of the bad parts?
The whole story with his sister, I think is completely.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's silly, isn't it?
I can see that.
And he's trying. It's completely unnecessary. It doesn't serve any purpose at all, other than to this sort of ham-fisted attempt to humanize him, I guess, is what it's supposed to be. But you could just have the mother character. You don't need this conflict with Manny. Manny, it could be a girlfriend that Manny gets in. There's so many ways that you could hit those same beats without having to have this weird incestual thing going on that is basically just a waste of the screen time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. We've got 15 movies that we've all picked between the 5 of us. Obviously on Mount Rushmore, The Godfather and Goodfellas, having everybody.
So let me explain to you guys really quick how this works. Ian's the only one that's joined us for that so far. So we try to collectively pick up a top 5, which we call it our Mount Rushmore +1, and we're going to go on ahead, and we have to collectively agree. So you might have to make some concessions. You might have to be like, okay, I'll give you that. Like it's on my outside looking in, but I'll give you that if you give me this, and feel free to debate. And who knows, we've gotten lucky before where we've just agreed on a top 5. So let's go ahead and we will jump in. Everybody has to agree for it to make the list.
Right.
So that's part of the game. Does anybody have a problem with Goodfellas being on that list?
We all put it in our top 5.
Okay,
so that
just making sure. Okay. All right. So Goodfellas is in. Goodfellas is on there, in no particular order. We're not going to rank them. We're just going to do.
Can we say the
top
Godfather
5.
series?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Is everyone
not,
okay?
not Godfather
I'm
3, though.
Just Michael, maybe just Michael. If
Just
we're
the first
doing
two.
Mount Everest, it'd be Michael Corleone.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can agree with at
I'll
least
go
the
with that.
Godfather first.
I don't
two.
want to scrap over
Top
1 and 2.
gangsters.
Yeah, I don't want to scrap over 1 and 2. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
whatever.
sure.
Just Godfather. That
Okay.
film.
Right on. Okay, Gary, you got that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So what? So far we got Goodfellas and then the Godfathers.
Right.
We'll just call them the Godfathers.
Let's see. And then the movies Scarface.
Let's have everybody throw one out that they would like to see in the top 5
Okay.
of all time. So Greg, let's go to you. What would you like to see added to this Mount Rushmore plus one that's not already there?
Yeah, I'd say Scarface. I'd say that's a good one.
I second that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how like only one of us says Scarface, but we all agree that it belongs.
If he hadn't have said it, I would have. That was my, you know what I mean? Because like, I
It's just funny. It was only one person's top 5, but we all collectively agree. Yes, that's one of the best.
It was in both Lucas and mine.
Yeah.
Okay. my
Okay.
bad.
That's okay. I'm good with Scarface, obviously. Johnny?
It would normally be on my outside looking in because it's barely there. But I am so tired from the amount of time we've been on air that I'll acquiesce.
Excellent.
Sure, yeah, it's in. It's
Okay.
on Mount Rushmore plus one. I'm okay with that.
Gustav get Carvin.
Two
Okay.
video games based on it. So
hold on. I will say this. That's 2 Al Pacinos. Do we want to do this?
Hey,
I think we have to.
We're probably going to get
Yeah.
2 Robert De Niro's we got 2 Robert De Niro's too, so I think it should be okay.
Yeah.
Godfather 2 and Goodfellas. I mean,
Yeah.
they're both other. It's fine.
That's true.
It's fine.
If you consider, Godfather 2, I didn't think about that. That's fair.
Yeah. Okay, I'm down. Luke, let's let you go ahead and throw one out there.
Want me to nominate? I nominate Layer
Yeah.
Cake.
Okay. All right. Who here has seen Layer Cake outside of
Oh yeah,
Luke and
you know
myself?
what? Bad choice because it should be one that we've all seen, even if I.
yeah, I haven't seen it. I think you tried to show it to me one time, but I think I fell asleep.
Oh.
Y'all were probably really stoned. or
Okay.
something.
So wait, what's the standing? What's the current standing?
All right. So all the ones that everybody voted on or put in their top 5 are
Right.
already in.
Are you asking for our top 3 right now?
Yeah. What do we have, and what
That's
are
what
the
he's
next ups?
Okay. We've next up we've got Boys in the Hood, and then American Gangster, Casino, Pulp Fiction, Layer Cake, Snatch, Menace 2, Society, The Departed, Legend, Dead Presidents, and Sexy Beast.
Did we say Training Day?
No.
Oh yeah. It was my.
Yeah.
So we have Scarface, we have Godfather,
The Godfathers,
and what else?
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas is already on there too. Yeah. So 3 so far, 2 more.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Casino, but I mean, I think that's probably going to pass with
Yeah.
everybody, right?
You know,
Yep.
I
that's too similar to, you know.
Yeah.
No, but
it's-
that's how I felt
Wow.
about fucking
yeah.
But,
I'm gonna have to say if Scarface is gonna get in from the outside looking in, Casino's the same thing for me. I can't do 2 outside looking in. I can't allow that. I'm sorry.
It's too much.
I can't. It's too much. It's too much
It's
leeway
true.
I'm given.
They're definitely Goodfellas, Scarface, and Godfather are definitely distinct.
Sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. All right. No problem. Let's jump to Gary. Let's go ahead and let's have you nominate one. We'll see if you can get anything
Okay.
submitted.
I'm going to put American Gangster up on the board. I think that's a movie that doesn't have Robert Duvall in it. So, that's a plus. Get some new blood in
Hey,
there.
Russell Crowe, same thing.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
have
okay.
to
Same.
immediately oppose that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to oppose this
I don't
one.
think that's
I do
anywhere
like American
near
Gangster.
it's
but-
good, but it's nowhere
Yeah.
near the caliber of what it's being put in the categories with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and throw one out there. I am gonna throw Boys in the Hood out there because that's as far as
Cruising down the street and buy 6'4".
foe.
Not the song, stupid.
Stupid. You suck, Ian. Just as far as
a movie.
just as far as gangster film, just as far as since we had, I also want us to represent the gang or hood films as well, since we were talking about those. So either Training Day or Boys in the Hood would be my 2 picks regardless. But since Ian and I both had that, Ian and I
So I
both
would
had
say
that on our
both
list.
those movies, to be honest. I think both those movies belong.
They are pretty damn
I
good.
would veto Boys in the Hood, to be honest. I would go for Training Day, and I will nominate Training Day on my next round. But I think I would veto Boys in the Hood.
Okay, all right. If it's fine, if we have one, if we have one veto, then we move on to the next one. Okay.
Is it the whole thing, or is it just like
just Boys in the Hood?
Okay.
Yeah, just Boys in the Hood. It's not combined.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were asking.
Sure.
Sorry.
Oh.
No, it's okay. So, who hasn't? Ian, I don't think you've nominated one yet. Why don't you throw one out there?
I was gonna say Boys in the Hood, but I'll go with Training Day for sure.
Okay. You know what? I know that if it was for me, it was on that. I could swap it with Legend. I would have no personal problem having that in my Mount Rushmore +1, for sure. It's a fucking classic.
I don't know if I would say Training Day is a mafia movie or a gangster movie.
Gang
though.
movie.
Definitely, I think it's a gangster movie. It's about the
Gang-
biggest gang in the world, the fucking LAPD, the government.
Boom. Yeah, suck on that one,
it's
Gary.
Every single scene, there's either you see gangs or gangster shit going on.
Yeah, or he's
Right.
like literally, yeah. I think
And it has Dr. Dre in it.
it's
It's true. It does. And Snoop.
Yeah.
And Snoop. Yeah. I mean, you have to. It is about life on the streets.
It's
dealing
based on a
with
true story.
the
It's
gang
based on
life.
the Rampart
You know, it's
scandal.
based in the hood, right? So if you want to veto Gary, you can. I'll go with you on that one, on Ian and Luke. I'll say Training Day makes my
I would
cut.
say if you have a choice between Boys in the Hood and Training Day, I think Training Day is much higher caliber. As much as I love Boys in the Hood, I think if you have to choose one,
It's a different style film, but yeah, I see where you're coming from.
I'm about 50-50. But I do like Boys in the Hood a little bit more.
While Gary's mulling that over, Greg, what do you think? Have you seen both of those?
Yeah, I have. It is weird trying to pick between the two of those. And I know what we're talking about, the style of it being very different as well. If I had to split hairs and just like on the tip of my head, I would say Training Day. But yeah, it's tough.
Okay. Do either of you have a problem putting it on there? If you do, it's okay. We'll move on. There's plenty of movies to choose from. We can move on to the next one.
I don't have necessarily a problem, and I'm willing to compromise a little bit.
Okay.
It's not what I would think of when I think of a mafia movie,
but it's
or a gang movie,
gangster movies. I
definitely,
remember when we
definitely a gang. I mean, that I think.
it's a gang film for sure.
I mean, if you wanted a Denzel Washington gangster movie, I already threw out American Gangster.
Training Days,
But that's
better
again,
than
that's
American
not as good.
Everybody hated it.
Yeah.
Shut up,
hey,
everybody.
Hey, this is chess, not it ain't checkers. Okay, King Kong ain't got shit on me.
You know what's cool about Training Day is it shows many different types of gangs. It shows, there's the hood gangs, there's the drug dealers, there's the Latino gangs, there's the cops, like Luke said, there's the rich like mafia guy that they kill. Like it shows everybody.
Oh, okay. So is everybody all right with Training Day on the Mount of Rushmore?
Belongs up there. A fantastic movie.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with it. Greg, do you have a problem with it? You okay?
No, I'll go with it.
All righty. Okay. All right. So that's 4. Okay. Training Day joins the ranks. Joins the ranks.
You know what? Well, I did nominate, but I do have one that a little left field. Nobody mentioned this movie in any of their top 5. However, I think that if you
probably a good choice.
I think almost everybody will agree. Maybe it'll fit there because you love this movie. It's The Warriors.
Warriors come out to play. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah. I just want to make sure.
I mean, it's a great movie.
It's a
great movie.
It is a great film, but I wouldn't put it on the same caliber as the other ones we have listed.
There's a lot of problems with The Warriors too. As much as I love it, there's problems with that movie.
Yeah. I do love how they use the Carmen Sandiego woman. I think that's the same girl that plays.
Yes, that plays the radio DJ.
Yeah, those are the great shots. Like they have a lot of good shots in that movie.
They do. They do indeed.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say I don't know if I could say that's up on Mount Rushmore.
I was gonna say I can't say it's damn good, but
okay.
That's another episode, by the way, that Jonny came on my podcast to talk about.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of a lot of films that we mentioned today. What do you guys think about what about The Departed? We're gonna stick with classic mafia films. What about The Departed?
be willing to compromise on The Departed. There's definitely a lot to appreciate there. I don't know if if it would be one I'd nominate, but if we all think so, I'll definitely get behind it.
Okay. Well, it's okay. I'm just throwing what else on the list. So if you don't agree, no problem. Greg, where are you at with that one?
I'm open to it. If everyone else thinks that it's good, then I'll get behind it because it is good. It is good.
Okay, for sure. Greg, where are you at?
You guys have had a long day. I'll say we'll go with it to get a consensus.
You're a good man, Greg. You're a good
I appreciate you're a good guy, Greg. I'm glad you came on. Same can't be said about Gary.
No.
Gary sucks.
Yeah.
Just kidding. It's all right. I had to add one of those in there before we ended tonight. Does anybody have it? Gary, do you have a problem with The Departed?
Yeah. I don't think we can. No.
Okay. All right.
I really love The Departed. I think it's a great movie. I think that might be my favorite Scorsese movie. But so I have no problem with that being up on the wall.
And he's not even saying that to get my goat. He's just he genuinely.
Dude, I thought he was being serious. I was like, "Ooh, what does Gary think is better than Departed?"
Okay. Yeah. Nothing.
I mean, I might go with Untouchables, but I don't think I can get enough votes for that. So
Untouchables is great, man.
Yeah.
It's a good fucking movie. But
forget about it.
You know my thing with Kevin Costner. He's okay. I'm not his biggest fan.
Okay, so our Mount Rushmore is Goodfellas, The Godfather, Scarface, Training Day, and The Departed for Mafia and gangster movies.
Nope, just gangster movies.
Gangster movies.
Or you could say Mafia and gang movies.
For movies.
For movies in general, the top 5 right here. So guys, we are running out of time for tonight. So once again, thank you for joining us. Before we take off tonight, we do want to go ahead and give everybody the chance to recommend a movie that somewhat is relevant to our topic for this evening that our viewers or listeners might want to check out during the week, as we do at the end of every episode. So to give you guys an example, I'm going to let Gary start us off tonight. Gary, what is some gangster-related film that you might recommend for our listeners?
Oh, thank you, Johnny. The film I'm going to recommend is it's a movie that tells the tale of 2 warring gangs that are fighting each other, one of them's trying to survive, and the other one's doing it just for entertainment purposes. It is of course, classic movie Hook.
I'm sorry?
Hook.
Did you just say Hook?
Hook. Yes, there's a gang of children that fights a gang of pirates.
I thought he was going to say West Side Story.
Oh my God, you are splitting hairs so heavily right now. I want to kill you after looking at you for 12 hours.
So yes, two gangs violently fight it out.
You're such a cheater.
And
you're such a cheater, Gary.
That's
I don't
my
like
recommendation, kiddos.
It's a great movie, but it's not. I hate you. I hate you so much. All right, fuck it. I'm gonna go with mine for the week. I am actually gonna stick with my 5th pick because a lot of people are not terribly familiar with it. Legend. If you guys have not checked it out, go on ahead and go get it. I think you can actually see it on Hulu right now. Netflix currently has it.
Pirate Bay.
Yeah, and it's not the greatest gangster movie in the world, but it's Tom Hardy's performance in particular. Yeah, it really is. And you can go check it out over there. It is free. Directed by Brian Helgeland. He had done a lot of really great stuff back in the early 2000s there. Knight's Tale. Oh God, what else did he fucking do? Man on Fire. Yeah, we're talking about, if we're talking about great Denzel movies that are underrated, Man on Fire is certainly up there. LA Confidential. He was a writer for all these. He did the screenplays for him. But anyways, yeah. So check it out. Legend would be my recommendation for this week. So Ian, let's go to you. What are you recommending to our listeners today?
Here is a movie that is not very well known at all. I just saw it by chance. It's called Gang Tapes. It's about a kid who's living with I think there are a bunch of Crips, and they are real life gangsters in this movie, like actual Crips. The whole movie is a found footage film. He's holding a handheld camcorder, and he's just like. It seems and looks so real, and that's the way it was supposed to be made. And you just see all this gangster shit go on. You see like them cooking crack to them doing drive-bys to various partying and drugs and sex and a whole bunch of shit, prostitution. It's really fucked up, crazy movie that looks actually like very real. So yeah, Gang Tapes, check that out.
All right, Greg, how about you?
Okay, so I my dyslexic brain completely read this question wrong, and I thought it was saying recommend something that is unrelated to today's episode topic. So I came up. I'll say that one, and then I'll say one that's on
fine.
topic. But
Sure.
I was saying
Since
the recent passing of Charles Grodin, I was saying check out the original Heartbreak Kid.
Yep.
Which Elaine May, great film. But if something needs to be on topic, I'd say it was interesting. We didn't mention True Romance today. That one,
that would have been a good one.
But I'm sure everyone has seen it. So if everyone hasn't seen Sexy Beast, I'd recommend that one.
Okay.
Although Clifford was my favorite Charles Gordon movie.
Oh man, too good.
Or Beethoven.
Yeah. I like.
Loves those. I was about to say, I guess Clifford was not a dog movie. I was thinking Clifford the Big Red Dog, and I was like, what? Actually, no, that movie didn't. It wasn't about the dog at all. But yeah, no, man, that really was sad. I already thought he had passed because I hadn't seen him in anything in probably 25 years, or 20, I guess.
It's weird. The night before I heard of his passing, I actually watched Midnight Run because it just came up randomly.
Oh, did you? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
God, I haven't seen that in a while either. Okay, let's jump on over here to Luke. Luke, round us out. What are you recommending this week?
Recommend you watch The Godfather 3.
Yes.
No thanks.
Punish people. Yes. Punish me, Luke.
Anyone who's actually watched The Godfather 3 recognizes that it gets a lot of flack, but it's not that bad, and there's some good ideas in there that are kind of interesting. And if it weren't called The Godfather, it would be one of those movies that'd be interesting to watch. But most people just hear people talk about how bad Godfather 3 is and just kind of think it's cool to say the same thing. But if you've seen there's some stuff in there that's worth looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I never understood why people hate it. I mean, it's not as good as the other two, I think, is the problem. And so people
and so it's just
their expectations were so high.
Mm-hmm.
The director's daughter is not worth looking at. I'll tell you that.
No, and that was a bad casting choice. But the plot is interesting, and again, the other based on a true story, and so it's
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, unfortunately, we are all out of time for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having the three of you on here, and especially talking about some of the most entertaining topics in Hollywood today. So check out Ian's podcast, Movies So Bad They're Good, Midnight Cult Classics and Camp, and then his other podcast, Having a Beer with Ian. Or Having a Drink with Ian. Which one? I can't remember.
Having a beer.
Having a beer with Ian. Got it the first time.
Which we have a merch store available for now. So if you want to have a beer with Ian t-shirt. Yep.
If you give me a complimentary one for coming on your podcast, then I'll certainly wear it around for you. Hey, free advertising.
Yeah,
so
and he's going to be all over the country.
I am. I'm about to travel all over the country. I can wear it to every city I go to.
Well, we're working on a merch store for Movies So Bad They're Good, so I'll let you know about that one. Which, and if you want to hear Johnny talk about the Warriors, check out that episode. That's right. And I got Greg Sestero from The Room.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, I got an interview with him. Yeah, and you did
Fire
an episode
in the Sky.
with him.
Yeah,
and also the couple guys from Troll 2. You were on that episode as well.
I was.
When we interviewed those guys. The guy who goes, "Oh my god!"
Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Well, no,
I'm just kidding, Ian.
No one likes you, Gary. That's why we didn't invite you.
Actually, Gary, I was going to invite you to Bandy, which will be coming in a couple of weeks.
Everyone knows it's Mandy.
Nope, not the same thing. Not the song. No correlation. No correlation. And of course, Greg and Luke, thank you guys for joining us. Always a pleasure. And
thank you so much.
Absolutely. So for all of us here at I Don't Give a Flick, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Gary for the last time today.
And I'm Neil. I'm so mad at Neil for not coming on. Fuck you, Neil. Just kidding. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow morning for our next episode. We'll see you guys next week. Take care. Thank you for tuning in to Leadfeather Productions' podcast of I Don't Give a Flick. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so that you never miss an episode. Podcasts are available on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are hosted. I Don't Give a Flick is hosted and produced by Johnny Blackburn, Gary Elmore, and Neil Riley. Executive producer Johnny Blackburn, technical director, editor, and audio mixer Gary Elmore. I Don't Give a Flick is a Leadfeather production, copyright Leadfeather Productions 2021.